Hello everyone, this is Miss Walker from Harton Academy. In this short video, I just want to take the opportunity to talk everyone through the pathways process, which basically involves our students deciding some of the subjects that they wish to study for their GCSEs or equivalent qualifications. Before take everyone through the learning journey that our students go through here at Harton and really on a national scale. At the moment, your child is at the end of what we call their Key Stage 3 stage of education. At Harton, that lasts for 3 years, and we are coming to the point in Year 9 where we are going to start making decisions about the courses that our students will study when it comes to their Key Stage 4 education. Now, Key Stage 4 at Harton again lasts for 2 years. During Key Stage 4, there are many subjects that are compulsory, and I'll speak about that a little bit later on in this short video. But they will have the opportunity to decide some of the subjects that they go on to study. Now, at the end of Key Stage 4, once our students finish Year 11 at 16 years old, nationally now in England, students must stay on for some sort of compulsory educational training until they reach 18 years of age. Many of our students will choose to go straight into Key Stage 5 studies, perhaps here at Harton, in Harton Sixth Form, perhaps at one of the local colleges or one of the other sixth form centres, and during that time they may study 3 A-levels, they may study for A-level equivalent qualifications. Alternatively, another pathway which is becoming increasingly popular is for students to take on an apprenticeship. Some apprenticeships last for 2 years, and once they reach 18 they would work in the profession that they've trained for, but increasingly we are seeing apprenticeships being offered, which we call degree level apprenticeships. Apprenticeships where you would complete one stage of it from 16 to 18 and then potentially be given the opportunity to study for a degree as part of that apprenticeship. Alternatively, of course, if students have taken 3 A-levels, they might choose to go on to university independently and study for a degree. One of the big benefits of doing a degree level apprenticeship, of course, is that degree would be funded through an employer. The one thing I would say at this point is that there is a little bit of a misconception about apprenticeships. Many students think, at the end of their Key Stage 4 career, I'll just get an apprenticeship. Apprenticeships are becoming increasingly competitive to actually get. So it is worth noting that a lot of effort needs to go into apprenticeship applications, and it's really, really important that students start looking at that quite early on. Hopefully, once all of that has been completed, our student will then reach their destination. Now, that would be most students. Sometimes the pathway is not as straightforward as that. Many people who work in education, for example, don't necessarily train to be a teacher when they're 21, 22 years old. Some people have alternative careers before entering teaching a little bit later on. So quite often there'll be some twists, there'll be some turns, because let's face it, these youngsters, whatever it is they decide that they want to do, they are going to be doing till they're well into their 60s. So it's really, really important that we remember plans can change. To take the opportunity to talk everyone through some of the changes to the grading systems for GCSEs. Many of you will be aware that from the new GCSE qualifications which were brought in 2016, we went from having a grading system involving letters, so A star all the way down to G grade, to new grades which are numerical and go from grade 9 to grade 1. And what the table that's appearing on the screen shows now is how the new grades equate to the old grades. So for example, a grade 7 sits very slightly below a grade A in old terms. A grade 9 sits very slightly above an old grade A star. Now, the two benchmark grades on here are grades 4 and grade 5. So the government state that a grade 4 is considered to be a pass, where a grade 5, which is slightly above an old C grade, is considered to be a strong pass. But what I would make sure everyone understands is that all of these grades are a qualification. All of these grades are a pass at GCSE and something that can be offered to employers or post-16 providers on those applications. Some qualifications which are graded in a slightly different way, and these are classified as more vocational qualifications. These might be things like BTECs or CNAT courses, or there are some courses offered by the Welsh Board that we actually run here at Harton as well. These qualifications are graded as distinction star, distinction, merits and passes. And what you can see if you look at the final column, the GCSE equivalent grades for that. So if a student achieved a level 2 pass in one of these vocational qualifications, that would be the equivalent of a GCSE grade 4. And the reason that I wanted to mention this type of qualification specifically is because traditionally these qualifications are not assessed 100% through examinations. Quite often there is a coursework element to some of these, which means that by the time the student goes into a final exam in the summer, 60% of their grade might have already been determined. And that's an important thing to consider when students make their choices through this option process. Speaking of options, the first thing I would like to make sure everyone understands is that we have a number of different pathways we place our students onto once they start our Year 10. We are currently in the throes of making these decisions now as to which pathway is most suitable. Within each pathway, there are going to be certain subjects all students have to study. They are required to study as part of the Key Stage 4 national curriculum, which is dictated to us by central government. But there will also be a number of subjects that students may opt or choose. The core offer that all students will have to study here at Harton are GCSE English Language and GCSE English Literature, GCSE Mathematics, GCSE Combined Science. Now, Combined Science is what we call a dual award qualification, which means students receive 2 GCSEs for Combined Science. They will sit exams in biology, chemistry and physics, and the scores for all of those exams are added together to give them 2 grades for science. Students will also study some subjects which they won't be examined on as well. So personal development, something that we've offered very, very well here at Harton Academy, encompasses some of the statutory regulation lessons that we have to deliver to our students. So RSHE, citizenship, personal, social, health and economic education, all of that is timetabled. Students also have to study some religious studies as well, and we also give all students access to physical education lessons, which is actually really, really important. Key Stage 4 studies can be very stressful for some youngsters, so having those periods every fortnight that they're not going to be examined on, and especially in PE where they get the opportunity to do something totally different, is really, really important for them. Now, the thing that most people are really, really interested in, which is all of the other subjects that students may have access to and may be able to choose to study. You can see we have a really, really varied offer here. We are very, very proud of how broad our curriculum offer is for our youngsters, and we're very, very proud of some of the subjects that we are able to offer for the first time this year. So for example, performing arts, we've never been in a position to offer that before, but some of our performances have just been so stunning in the last couple of years that we felt it was really, really important to allow performing arts to be studied by some of our youngsters. The one pathway that I do want to single out and just give a little bit more detail about is our separate sciences pathway. Now, there's some students, this will be approximately 50 students, will study for 3 GCSEs in science instead of the normal 2 that everyone else studies as part of the compulsory offer. This basically means that they will study for separate GCSEs in biology, chemistry and physics. Now, to allow this to happen, those students will lose one optional subject. So the extra science lessons will take up some of those additional hours. They will also study further mathematics as part of this pathway as well. Because of that, these students will be chosen to be placed on the separate sciences pathway based on their performance data, specifically from science and mathematics. They will be chosen by Mrs. Pearson, who is the current subject leader for science, and Miss Granger will also have an input, who is our current head of mathematics. In terms of how we will select the pathways that each student will follow, the first thing that we have to bear in mind are some government requirements. And the government do require most students to study for something called the EBAC qualification, or English Baccalaureate. As part of the English Baccalaureate, the government would like all students to study English language and English literature, mathematics and sciences. Now, the sciences could be triple science, the sciences could be dual award science or combined science, but computer science also counts as a science as well. Students would then have to study geography or history and then a modern foreign language. And here at Harton, the modern foreign languages we offer are French and Spanish. Now, the baccalaureate pathway to encompass all of these subjects together is quite an academic pathway. And it is very, very much looked upon very favourably by some universities. So although the main determining factor for students gaining access to universities will be A-level grades, they will also look back at a pupil's GCSE profile as well. And especially a modern foreign language is looked upon very, very favourably by a lot of Russell Group or top universities. The thing we use to decide on the pathways of our students is our experience. We've known your youngsters from year 7 to year 9. We have a really good idea, not just of their academic ability, but their interests, their talents and what they are good on. So what we will do is select the pathway that we feel is most appropriate for them and the pathway that we feel they are going to be most successful. When students are making their choices, there are a couple of pieces of advice that I want to pass on, not just to you, but to them as well. And the first thing is, although we don't ask our students to know for sure what it is they want to do with the rest of their life, at the end of the day, they're 13, 14 years old. Nobody at that age can be certain about what they want to do. But what they do have to have a little bit of awareness of is what they're going to do in the next step of their education. So if, for example, they wanted to study history at A level, they would need to do a history GCSE. If they know for a fact that they want to go on and study something like A-level PE, GCSE PE would be a good option for them to take. Now, the good news about that is that actually for many of our students, the subjects that they might need for the next steps in their education are already part of the core offer. So for example, if a student wants to go on and do biology, chemistry and maths as their 3 A-level subjects, well, they have to study science and maths as part of their core offer in school. That gives those students a lot of flexibility. That means those students can choose other subjects because they enjoy them, because they like them, and because they want to take them one stage further. And a little pearl of wisdom that I would share at this point is, sometimes it's nice for students, especially those who are on very, very academic pathways, to pick a subject that's not quite so academic. For example, if you've got a student who wants to be a doctor, is going to do the triple science pathway, it's going to have a lot of very, very academic subjects to study. Maybe that student also is very, very interested in art and wants to study an art GCSE. There is nothing wrong with that. Having something balanced and something quite creative alongside those academics is going to do that student a lot of good. And let's face it, this can be quite a stressful couple of years for those students. And really, studying some of the subjects just because they like them is not a bad thing. The other consideration that I always urge people to make is that when students sit the exams at the end of year 11, they will sit a lot of exams. One of our students this year has 38 exams at the end of year 11. It's sometimes worth bearing in mind and looking at courses that are not assessed 100% by exams. So, for example, some of our BTEC courses, some of our CNAC courses are only 40% exam and 60% controlled assessment. And controlled assessment basically means coursework that's done in a classroom under controlled conditions. So if we have students who maybe struggle in exam scenarios, maybe become a little bit anxious or panicky in exams, but they are really hard working during lessons, maybe they should consider taking at least one subject like these that I'm describing. So for example, we do BTEC Health and Social Care, GCSE Design Technology subjects, 50% of them can be made up of coursework or designing and making a product. So that's one thing I really would urge you to think about very, very carefully. Now, in terms of restrictions with options, I do want to give everyone a little bit of a disclaimer. The first thing is class sizes are limited. I will do everything I possibly can, as will Mr. Story, who's going to help me with this process, to make sure as far as I can that students are put onto the courses they want to study. But if 125 people decide that they want to study something like performing arts, I may not have the staff available in school to run that many classes. On the other side of that, it might be that only 2 students decide they want to study one of the subjects. And again, it may not be feasible to run a class with too few students in as well. Because of this, the message that you must take is that reserved choices are absolutely essential. I would be putting as much effort and as much thought into my reserved choice as I do my first choice, just to make sure that if you did have to study that subject, you were equally as happy with that subject. Now, the logistics of how our application process is going to take place is we're going to use a Google form to collect all of the information from our youngsters. A unique link is going to be sent to each child's school email address on or around the 22nd of March. So that is the child's school email address is where the link will go. This page of the options form, when you click on the link, will have some details which are already pre-populated, pre-filled in. It will have the student's name, it will have their tutor group, and it will have the student email address. All we ask you to do is check the details belong to you as a student. And if not, that you contact us and let us know at school that you've been sent the wrong options form. Please don't amend anything in there, just let us know. Submitted that page and moved on to the second page. This is where the compulsory courses for your pathway are outlined for you. Now, we still want you to have a knowledge of what these courses involve. So each of the courses is hyperlinked, and if you click on them, it will take you to a page that gives you some information about that course and about that quality. For example, if I clicked on the mathematics link, what would then appear is this information sheet about that mathematics. It'll show you things like the number of hours that you would study that subject. It will talk through the assessment requirements, so how many exams you might have. It will also give you the name of the subject leader. So if you had any questions or queries, you would know the person that you could go and speak to. Of course, you can always speak to your actual subject teachers about this as well. Page is where we start looking at the options that have been made available to your child on their pathway. So for example, in this form, option A, these are the subjects that a student could choose to study as part of this option. Again, we've hyperlinked every subject. If you click on it, it will take you to a subject information sheet, again, where it will talk you through what it's like to study this subject, how many hours you would be taught, and really important to look at is the assessment of the course. Is it examined? Are there some coursework components to it as well? As you scroll down underneath that page, this is the part where you actually make decisions. This is the part where you're going to submit your choices on that options form. And you can see there are two columns: first choice subject, reserve subject. You must only select one first choice and one reserve subject. Don't try to put two first choices. Don't try to only submit a first choice and leave a reserve blank. You must put one in the first choice column, one in the reserve column. If you do accidentally put two in the same column, you will get a warning before you move on. Okay? It won't allow you to submit the form if you have put two choices in the same column. Again, you might have more than that in terms of options. Some pathways have two options, some pathways might have three options. You would go through each of the screens, you would click on the option that you want to take, and then you would come to this final page. Now, this is really, really important for you as parents, because this last page allows you to look at the email address that we currently have stored in the system for you. If the email address that's in there is absolutely fine, you leave it as it is. But if there is an error in it, or you would prefer us to send a copy of this form to a different email address, this is your opportunity to amend it. And what that will then do is, as soon as you click on submit, it will send a completed version of the form to you and to your child, so that you both have a record of the options that you've asked for. Timeline, the 13th of March was the time when we actually ran this presentation as an evening for everybody. And as I've already mentioned, the 22nd of March is when we will be distributing those forms. Those unique links will be sent, as I said, to each student's school email address. Now, the deadline for submission of these forms we have in is Monday, the 15th of April. And that is the first Monday after we come back from the Easter holidays. So that's basically going to give all of our students a full week in school where they can ask questions to their teachers, and then 2 weeks over the Easter holidays where you can sit down, do more research, click on all those links and read about all the subjects before submitting that form. Then, as soon as we've got all of the forms back, we can look at classes, we can look at the subjects that will run, the subjects that might not run, and we will confirm final subject choices, the subjects that students have been accepted onto the week beginning the 29th of April. Now, at any time, if anyone has any questions or queries or anything you would like to ask us connected to pathways, that email address shown in that box at the bottom of this page is incredibly important. That email address is going to be monitored by both myself and Mr. Story, who are going to really be involved in this options process. We will also make sure that we are keeping an eye on this inbox during the Easter holidays. So even over those 2 weeks, if you have any queries, anything you would like to ask us, please refer to that email address there. Another thing I do want to quickly mention is career support. One of the things we are incredibly proud of alongside our personal development programme is the career support that we offer to our learners. We do standard careers lessons all the way through year 7, year 8 and year 9, but we also do much more specialised career support all the way through year 10 and all the way through year 11. So during year 10, all students will receive a 30-minute one-to-one career guidance interview, and that's with a fully qualified level 7 careers guide. We also offer all students work experience opportunity during year 10. We allow students independence in this, as in we ask them to find and source their own placement. We also, during year 10 and year 11, have timetabled careers lessons, and these are going to be held during what we call our intervention time. We're going to specifically focus in these lessons on CV building, looking at post-16 options with them, and also really trying to hone some of those employability skills, transferable skills that are really important for next steps for them. We also have an opportunity for all students to attend a careers fair where we get a lot of employers who come in, set up stands, and students can have that experience in some of those encounters with employers as well, which is really important. To year 11, they will also be offered an additional follow-up careers appointment, basically to check, is it still the pathway they are thinking about? Do they need any more help, any more support? We also then offer CV workshops during lunchtime sessions where we can sit and one-on-one talk students through how to build that CV for when they're applying for their courses or when they're applying for even part-time jobs as well. We offer employer encounters as well, and again, more guidance on how to apply for those post-16 courses. We also offer individual pathway sessions, so there will be sessions held about apprenticeships if that's something that interests students, T-level qualifications, A-level qualifications as well, so really wide, broad offer there as well. And finally, we are incredibly lucky at Harton to have someone named Elaine Efford working with us. Elaine Efford, and I'll discuss a little bit further Elaine's role, is very heavily involved in supporting our students who may want to apply, especially to Cambridge University, but also Oxford University as well. Applying to those two establishments is a very lengthy process, and it can be very stressful for students. So Elaine's presence in the school is brilliant in terms of supporting our youngsters. It's also very good to highlight the aspiration of going to those two universities as well. The final thing I wanted to mention is something that we are incredibly proud of here at Harton, and that is that we not only seek to support our learners in terms of their academic development, but we are also very keen to make sure that we are supporting them in developing their emotional well-being and their mental health as well. We are incredibly lucky to have two full-time counsellors who work here at our school. We've got Mrs. Linklater, we have Miss Collins, who some of you may already know at this point, who work very closely with students that are referred to them. So if you do have any concerns during this process of option selection or beyond, and you think your child might benefit from having a point of contact in school, that is certainly something that we can also look to set up for you as well. Is the end of this options presentation. All I would say about the table below is that these are some of the key people you need to be aware of if you need any further guidance or you need any further help. The main communication should be through that pathways@hartonacademy.co.uk email address. But it may be that you want to speak to someone about the specific parts of this. So for example, if you had any queries about the separate sciences pathway, it might be that you want to encourage your child to go and have a conversation with Mrs. Pearson about the possibility of getting onto that course. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this, and as I said, if you have any further queries, please do not hesitate to get in touch. Thank you.